Hello, healing souls. My name is Dawn, and I am a survivor of depression and complex PTSD. Welcome to my channel, where I help to support those working through trauma, depression, and other mental health issues. Whether you are the person healing the trauma or you care for someone who is, in today's video, I share 5 important things to know about trauma recovery. Point number 1, it will get worse before it gets better. For many trauma survivors, we've blocked out a great deal of what we experience. I would say the more you've blocked out, the higher the likelihood that you experienced quite a bit of trauma. For me, I would say I don't remember about 80% of my childhood, and what I do remember wasn't wonderful. Now, this doesn't mean I didn't have some good memories, even some great memories, but the mind does funny things to protect itself and keep you safe. As you begin to heal and this stuff starts to come to consciousness, it will feel extremely overwhelming, as if you will not be able to contain or manage all of the feelings that are bubbling up. You will want to dissociate to get away from the feelings and the hurt. Some examples of how this could show up are: it could look like literal disassociation, where you have complete brain fog and severe trouble concentrating. It could look like extreme anxiety and panic attacks as you experience old fight or flight in the body. It could also look like turning to substances to numb yourself from painful feelings. It could look like sleeping a lot to avoid thinking. That was my drug of choice. It could even look like having seizures, which is part of what happened to me. My brain just was fried from all of the experiences I was going through. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to have seizures, but this is just how my body handled the stress of confronting these painful feelings. Now, I share all of this with you not to scare you or to deter you from working on your trauma, but to make you aware that initially it will feel extremely uncomfortable and it is normal to feel overwhelmed. But your body brings it back up when you are strong enough to pull it apart. Diving deep and acknowledging this is important. It doesn't go away. It must be dealt with, or it's going to wreak havoc on your life and perhaps even your body. When you begin your trauma recovery, it will be extremely important to have a safe place to turn to and support as you heal. I don't recommend pulling this part apart alone. You'll be able to move through your recovery faster with help. Just know that even though it gets worse at first, there's peace on the other side of the work that you'll do. Point number 2, the truth will set you free, but first it will make you angry. You will, of course, have to potentially relive your trauma and the details of what happened, and that will be hard. The initial realization that it was my caregivers that ultimately betrayed me was a deeply painful thing for me to wrap my head around. I had made so many of the problems that I had in my life my fault. It didn't even occur to me to consider that my parents had contributed to the deep feelings of depression and shame that I carried. I knew I didn't have a great childhood, but after I was an adult, I couldn't understand why I still felt so hurt. I was out of the situation after all. I had a good life. I was in a great career. I had a great place to live and so forth. I just couldn't feel better. Well, the inner child in me who went through all of the trauma was not about to be quiet anymore. She needed to be acknowledged, and she wanted me to know that what she went through and the way that she was treated was not okay. It is enormously painful to let this in. When you do finally allow it in, you will be angry beyond measure. Dare I say, full of rage. When I first started, I felt ready to burn the whole world down when I finally got in touch with these feelings that I had managed to push down for decades. And I'm not proud to admit this, but I think it's important to share with you because I believe a lot of trauma survivors might have these feelings. I actually had revenge fantasies towards my abusers for a while when I first tapped into how angry I was. And again, I share this because I feel like this is probably a normal feeling state to have once we acknowledge how powerless we felt in our experience. Feelings of shame and humiliation might also lead to these revenge fantasies. Now, to be clear, I am in no way advocating that we should act on these fantasies. And if you feel that you are going to hurt others or yourself while engaging in these thoughts, please get help immediately. I bring these up to let you know that if you do have these thoughts during your process, it does not make you a bad or evil person. It makes sense that after being repeatedly hurt, whether that was physically or emotionally, by those who were meant to care for us, we might engage in these types of thoughts after our trauma experiences. So, again, first, the truth is going to set you free, but it will make you angry at first. Point number 3, others may not understand how hard it is for you to heal. When we begin to heal from our depression and or our trauma, it's going to take time. Perhaps for some of us, a lot of time. Often, we're going to move 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. Now, it took time for the original trauma to occur, especially if you're dealing with complex PTSD. So it only makes sense that it's going to take time to heal. I have been working on and off for the better part of 2 decades to heal my trauma. Now, this doesn't mean it was nonstop, but again, it was off and on. I would have to try new modalities and different forms of healing based on where I was at, and that was whatever needed healing at that time. Also, trauma is often healed in layers. You uncover some things that you'll work on, and it will bring up more to be healed and processed. And again, you might need to try different things. Others may not understand why you're, quote, not over that from so long ago, or they may make comments that it's taking a long time to heal. It does not matter what others think. You are the one that had the experiences. I know in my mind, there were times I felt like, when am I going to be healed? When is this going to be over? And I want to tell you this very important thing. If you take nothing else from today's video, please hear this. There is no fully healed from trauma. Rather, it is a pathway to healthier ways of being. Healing is going to be about being in your body in new ways, communicating in new ways to other people, loving ourselves in new ways that maybe we never have before, expressing ourselves in new ways, setting boundaries with others in new ways, and just generally showing up in any new way that we haven't before due to our past experiences. That's what healing is. Now, you're going to have days even well along your recovery that you're triggered by something you thought that you had healed. It will feel frustrating. You may second guess yourself, saying to yourself, why is this coming up again? I know I second guessed myself many times. It felt like I was doing something wrong, like I wasn't trying hard enough. And it isn't that I was doing something wrong. I wasn't. And you aren't either. You are human, and you're working to rewire your brain to new thought patterns, beliefs, behaviors, and ways of being. And that's going to take time. Now, you will also need to work on your fight or flight response or your trauma responses. And this is one of the more challenging aspects of trauma recovery. I still have moments where a trauma response comes up, but my reaction is far less than what it used to be, and I am able to regulate myself and my body much more quickly than before. Point number 4, some of the people in your life may fall away as you heal your trauma. Often part of healing our trauma is learning to set boundaries, as I said. We were generally not allowed to have boundaries as trauma survivors, or the boundaries that we did try to set were disrespected. You're going to receive pushback as you learn to set new boundaries. It is an important part of your healing. Know that pushback from those in your life is normal and necessary. It will likely feel uncomfortable while you learn to advocate for your wants and needs. Some people in your life will not like this, and that's okay. Again, this isn't about them. It's about your healing. Other pieces of your healing may involve removing yourself from abusive people and perhaps family members. It may involve confronting your abusers. Or for sexual abuse survivors, it might include prosecuting your abuser if you feel called to do that. Understand that many people who have lived in the same toxic environment that you were in may choose to continue to stay in the dynamics that they know. They may not be interested in healing themselves or choosing healthier ways to live. Or maybe it's just more comfortable for them to do what they've always done and known. They may become deeply uncomfortable themselves with you if you begin to act in healthier ways that challenge them to either show up in new ways, or they'll be upset that you're no longer playing the prescribed role they were used to and expected from you. These people are there to teach you about boundaries and empowerment. I know, it must seem strange to look at an abuser as a teacher. It took me a long time to reach the state where I could look at my situations that way. However, that was an important part of my healing too. So if you have some people in your life fall away as you evolve, know that's okay. Let them fall away with the understanding that they are not ready, nor may they ever be, for healing. This doesn't mean you have to leave the door closed forever. You can revisit a relationship later if you choose, if they've been working to grow too. But if not, take away strength in your desire to heal and move forward on your path. Point number 5, you will need to go through stages of grief. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was a Swiss psychiatrist that came up with a model on death and dying that involved 5 stages. The first stage was denial, the second was anger, the third was bargaining, the fourth was depression, and the final stage was acceptance. She also stated that these stages could apply to other major life events, not just a death. Healing involves grieving many different layers, and you will find yourself going through the 5 stages that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talked about as you do your healing. You will continue to find yourself circling back to different parts of this process and different stages in that model as further realizations about your circumstances come up for awareness and healing. If you are a childhood trauma survivor, part of your grieving process will involve grieving the loss of your childhood, what you wish it had been, and how you wish your caregivers had treated you. You might need to grieve time spent from an abusive situation, such as a romantic relationship later in life. A big part of the grieving process will be the loss of any relationships that you need to let go of, as we just discussed, for your mental health and peace in your life. And that one was a really painful part of my healing process. I tried to maintain some of the toxic relationships in my life, hoping for a different end result and dynamic, also because it's societally expected to maintain some of them. But when those dynamics stayed the same and didn't evolve in a way that was supportive to my mental health, I realized I had to let them go. This wasn't about making them wrong because they're on their own path, but it was about making healthier choices for myself and where I was headed. That too was part of setting boundaries for myself. And so this involved letting go of some close family members, and for that, I had to go through the grieving process. I want to encourage you, any of you who are at the point in your life where you are considering doing this, to not feel guilty. I think in a lot of cases, it can be important to try to maintain or repair those relationships. But if you try and you're met with continued resistance to healthier dynamics, it is okay to let them go. I really want to repeat that. It's okay to let them go. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty or say, but that's your dad or that's your brother. You should stay with your family. You know what is right for you. And I think we need to start normalizing, releasing all toxic relationships, even if those involve what others would consider close family. Just know and understand that this will be part of your grieving process too. Clearing trauma is often a complicated, multi-layered process, but I assure you, as someone who has done it, It is possible. In future videos, I'll be sharing different modalities that I have used over the years to assist me in the process of recovering from complex PTSD, as well as some extremely helpful books and resources. If you'd like more of this content in your feed, please subscribe and hit the notification bells or like the video if any of this was helpful, so we can get this type of content out to more of those who are looking for assistance in healing. Sending you healing souls so much love, and for whoever needs to hear this today, you matter.